To use SharePoint 2013 effectively, you must understand some of the concepts that are used when referring to different components. The first such concept is that of a web application. In SharePoint, a web application is the root point of what hosts a number of different services. A single instance of SharePoint can contain multiple web applications, each with a different set of services and capabilities. The web application component is what defines the features that the entire portal under it will have access to. Web applications consist of one or more site collections. As the name suggests, this is a container that encapsulates a number of sites. A web application must have a site collection before it is accessible to an end user. Site collections themselves are bound to a database within the SharePoint system. Therefore, splitting a web application into logical site collections is useful when wishing to manage database and storage as well. For instance, a web application could have site collections such as main, archive, and client. Each will then have a different database file to store its data. At the next level comes the site. A site is basically an instance of a template that defines the features available at a particular URL in the SharePoint system. Sites can be nested within one another to any number of levels. In this case, each site can be alternatively termed a subsite as well. For instance, extending the case above, the site collection client can have a site called Client Home, which contains information regarding, say, standard billing rates, operating procedures, etc. This site can then have a number of sites under it for each client of the organization. Each such site can have more sites under it as well. While all of the above are structures for organizing data in SharePoint, data itself is stored in the form of lists. Lists are the basic units of data storage and can be extended to store almost any kind of data. You will learn about lists in greater detail later in this course. A special case of a list in SharePoint is a document library. This is a structure that extends a list to store documents in the form of files. Any kind of document, MS Office files, PDF, images, audio, video, etc., can be stored in a document library. You can even create folders to further organize documents within one. This is yet another component that you will learn about in greater detail in this course. Users are, of course, the employees of the organization who are allowed to use the SharePoint services. Users are usually created in the organization network infrastructure, in the Active Directory domain. SharePoint integrates with Active Directory and can read the users from there. Users can be added individually or in bulk to any level in the hierarchy, from a web application all the way to an individual item within a list or library. Just like users, you can also use groups from Active Directory within SharePoint. But this differs from the former in that SharePoint simply uses the AD group as a user. The AD expands the group to its constituent members whenever requested by SharePoint. However, SharePoint has a group concept of its own. You can create groups within SharePoint, which are completely independent of the groups in AD, if you so wish, and use them for assigning access rights to items. Finally, permissions are the actual access rights you can assign users or groups within SharePoint to any item. There are different types of permission levels depending on what you wish to do. For instance, you might assign full access to a particular user for a document library, but only a view-only access to the same user for a list.